The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to talk about migrating content and really the technical governance side of a SharePoint implementation. It's a joint webinar hosted between Antares Solutions and Metalogix. So on the call today, I have a few of us. It's myself here, Roland Parr, I'm the Client Engagement Manager for Antares Solutions, joined by David Dislow, who's the Sales Executive at Metalogix, and also Matt Bradfield, one of the Technical Directors at Metalogix, who will be spending time within the demo today. In terms of what we're going to cover off over the next hour, I'll give you a quick introduction to who Antares are and some of our capabilities and some of our customers, and then I'll pass over to David to talk more about Metalogix and really SharePoint governance and really the sort of problems we're seeing facing the marketplace with governance, both from an operational or technical level, and how Metalogix tools such as ControlPoint can really help you guys out in defining a governance plan and also having the tools in place to manage and maintain that governance plan. And then we'll pass over to Matt to go through a demonstration of the tool ControlPoint. This is a listen-only webinar. We will be taking questions throughout. If you look on the right-hand side of your panel there should be a question box. You can punch the questions in there, and we'll allow about 10 or 15 minutes at the end to go through the Q&A as well. So plenty of time for questions. In terms of Antares, a quick overview of ourselves. We're a Microsoft Gold partner based in York Street in the CBD. About 30 or so consultants here with a small team growing up in Brisbane, and we really split our business into four main pillars of concentration, being productivity, business intelligence, managed services, and innovation. So within the productivity space, it's all around SharePoint as a platform and Office 365 as a platform as some of our main competencies, and that's really why and where we partner with the likes of Metalogix to provide additional tools on top of the SharePoint platform to help with things like governance, but not only governance. They have a range of other tools around backup and restore, migration tools, all sorts, remote blob storage. So we really partner with Metalogix there to provide enhancement extensions to the SharePoint platform that we consult and specialize in. In terms of business intelligence, we help organizations consolidate multiple systems, build enterprise data warehouses, so they can then report on a single source of truth and make better and faster decisions inside their organizations. In terms of managed services, we provide a range of support services to the projects that we build on things like the SharePoint platform. We help with migration strategies to going from on-premise over to 365, and again that's where Metalogix comes into play there with some of their migration tools. And lastly, innovation. We've got a very skilled team building custom applications for when the SharePoint platform may not meet your requirements 100%, and you might need some bespoke solutions or bespoke coding to get you to meet your business requirements. In terms of our expertise, as I say, we're a professional consulting firm, and we really specialize in a range of different projects. And some of the projects that we run for our clients typically include corporate intranets, business process improvement with forms and workflow solutions like Mintex and K2, social business tools with things like Yammer and Citrion to provide enterprise social networks, information management solutions, both document management on SharePoint and records management on SharePoint, and often using tools like RecordPoint as bolt-on tools to help with the record management strategy. As I mentioned before, custom developed solutions, requirements, you want something to be built outside of the SharePoint platform, we can help you there too. With a lot of organizations wanting a source of truth across intranet, extranets, and also websites, and SharePoint being able to provide that capability. We're doing a number of public-facing websites as well. And business intelligence, of course, with business reporting and information dashboards. And whether you want to have these projects and solutions on your infrastructure or provided to you as a cloud solution, we have a number of cloud options for our clients as well. In terms of some of our customers, just a snapshot there, we work with a range of organizations really ranging from 50 staff up to 15,000 staff, and as you can see, no one particular sector or vertical that we specialize in. We're really in the business of providing business solutions with technology, and so if an organization has a problem they're trying to solve, we can present a range of options to help them get there using technologies predominantly on the Microsoft stack. What I want to do now is really spend the majority of the time with Metalogix guys, one of our key partners, and providing a bit more information around who they are and what they're all about and the tools they have, and then getting into the demonstration of the tool. And as I said, please do use the chat window to ask any questions. We'll make sure we get to them at the end of the webinar. So I'll just pass over control to David. Okay.
Thank you, Roland. Can everyone hear me now?
It's a listen only, so if they can't, they'll have to use the chat window, but I can hear you loud and clear.
No worries, great. I'll just present this. Well, thank you everyone for joining the webinar with Antares and Solutions. Thank you, Roland, for the introduction. So Metalogix is a US-based company. We've been around for many years. It's a 10-year, 11-year company, and we are, I guess, one of the leaders in SharePoint tools. We are the largest. We are growing very quickly. We've got 14,000 licenses across the globe. We have obviously a global presence, headquartered out of the US in Washington, and we have a local presence here in Melbourne, and we rely on our Antares solution partners in Sydney as well. So we do have, I guess, local presence, but also backed up by that global support. We've been around for a long time in Australia as well globally, and we have a large number of Australian-based clients here. Just like Antares Solutions, where we have no real individual sector or industry that we focus in on, we deal with large and small organizations alike. When it comes to governance, there's a lot to take in for governance, and it's not just one area in permission management or in content management. It's about looking after the entire platform, so migrating from where you currently have to the latest version of SharePoint. When that happens, a lot needs to happen in the way of consolidation, synchronizing content. That then has governance and security type issues where you may need to reorganize and move your content. As you're increasing in content, then storage becomes an issue where you need to then determine where the best place for that storage may sit, whether it be the fastest disk that you might have versus the slowest cloud or redundant-based systems. And obviously there needs to be an understanding of the cost versus the performance ratio there. And like all businesses, you need to protect that organization, being able to restore and to not only at a farm level, but at a granular level as well. So being able to restore in the event of major disasters, but also to find individual content and have that reassurance that you can get that content when you need to. And monitoring and archiving all comes part of that protecting task. So ControlPoint is the permission management product that we have at Metalogix, and this is the main one that we're going to do a demonstration today. I will touch on the other products, but only at a high level, and today is going to be the demonstration of our ControlPoint. It is the product that allows us to manage our permissions at the farm all the way down to the user level. It can be security trimmed to allow business users to begin taking control of their own environments. And so when you think about a governance plan, then what are the tools and what are the business practices that you now need to implement in your organization to then not only have a governance plan, but to adhere to that governance plan and actually enforce that governance plan. And you do that by involving site collection owners, the content owners, the end staff to actually be able to do these particular types of actions, whether it be auditing the tasks within the organization, auditing or controlling the way content is being produced. And that's really the heart of the governance skill. Once you have content and you need to reorganize it, our content matrices allow you to move content from, I guess, consolidating from multiple farms. And certainly we use our partners to help get over that difficult time of moving from what you did have and to the future of your new environments. For the larger organizations, particularly our mining customers, there's a lot of requirement, a lot of need to be able to synchronize content from multiple SharePoint locations. So this is more the upper end of the market, where you have a geo presence in multiple countries to be able to replicate either site collections, libraries, even individual documents based on metadata within the organization. So that replicated product allows us to do that. By and far, one of the best replicated products I've seen in my long years of IT. When it comes to storage, I don't know if it's a secret or not, but Tier 1 storage is the most expensive storage that you can possibly get. It is, but you get what you pay for. It is quick, allows thousands of users to access that sort of content. What you want to have is your SQL environment, or at least the stubs of your SQL environment, sitting on that Tier 1 disk, and then break up the rest of it into lower grades of storage where it's most appropriate. So your active and your near active content can be in your Tier 2 or Tier 3 disk. When it comes to archiving or long-term archiving, Tiers 4 and 5, where we can have a NAS drive or even a cloud-based storage, to be able to store large amounts of content into the cloud. And the reason why we do it is for redundancy, but also the fact of that cost ratio. Backup, SharePoint backup. So particularly when we talk about storage, it changes the way that we do our backups. So when we have RDS, we're now going to split that data into two pieces, having our SharePoint content and then our blobs in one area. Using Metalogix backup, which is included in our storage products, it is the fastest backup to be able to do that activity. It backs up both the farm as well as all the content at a granular level, so you can restore, for every sort of disaster that you will encounter, whether it be affecting the entire farm or an individual user where they can self-service and restore that content by themselves. Reporting, we can look at the SharePoint environment, be able to determine where SharePoint is performing well, and once again plays into that governance plan. Governance is about maintaining the provisioning of content, but also protecting and making sure that content is available. And you'll only do that by monitoring your systems and making sure that they're always at optimal health. Archiving, particularly in Exchange systems, to be able to move that content to that lowest grade of tier storage. So I guess this is just really a glimpse of how Metalogix can help transform your SharePoint environment by taking what particular challenge you have today and then being able to solve that with a particular product. And of course we help with our Antares solutions. So I'm now going to pass over to Matt Bradfield, who's the Technical Director of Metalogix in the US. He is now the expert for ControlPoint and going to pass us through some of the tasks and some of the activities that you can expect to use using the ControlPoint product set. Matt, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
We'll pass you over now. And there you go.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Again, it's an only webinar, but I can see it now, so I think you're good to go, Matt.
Okay, awesome. So let me start off. My name is Matthew Bradfield. I run the solutions engineering team for North America, and I've actually been working on ControlPoint for about 4 years. So as we walk through the product a little bit, I'm going to discuss a fair bit as well around governance and really how you can kind of implement some of that governance functionality, governance monitoring using ControlPoint. So first, this is the ControlPoint product. It is a virtually all-native application within SharePoint. What I mean by that is there's no need for extra hardware, additional tools. The only requirement to deploy ControlPoint successfully is that you have a SharePoint environment that you can deploy a solution into. The product is basically installed as a web application that then creates a configuration site collection and uses a couple of solutions deployed into the farm to actually present you with the UI that you see now. So on the home page, it's going to give, and this is for 2013 only, but it's going to give you a breakdown of the high-level information around your environment, including basically just some minimal content stats. And there's also a number of the easier or most commonly used reports are included here on the right. For the remainder of the product, the tools are actually accessed via menu. There are different menus for a farm level, which is the top level node here, or individual web applications, and we can select items down to an individual list or library. Now, we can perform actions on specific items within those libraries, but we can't expand further than the list level here. A couple of major things to remember with ControlPoint. One of the things that's very large in governance is being able to standardize and make everything uniform across your environment in terms of configuration. So one of the ways that we assist with that is in ControlPoint we provide you the ability to perform single object operations on multiple objects. So what I mean by that is, let's say for example that within my environment I have a policy that we're only going to retain 5 major and 4 minor versions of every item in our farm. This is what our compliance department requires. Our legal team signed off on it. This is great, but we want this everywhere. And you know, this is going to be good if you're not in 2013 for improving your storage efficiency. A number of other things, general performance. So using ControlPoint, what I can do, instead of having to go into every single library within the entire environment, I can select the scope of the entire farm, and then I can come in here and I can say, you know, I want to modify the version history here, and I want to create major and minor, and I can create 5 major. You get the idea. It's basically that we can set these parameters once and then use the product to set these values across any scope in the environment that we want. If you use custom properties, you have the ability to tag your sites individually, so you could mark them based on a security level. And then you can actually perform the same types of operations by uploading a selection into here. This would give you the ability to kind of treat sites differently, you know, project sites from department sites versus client sites, and then apply standard settings to each of those. Couple of other major aspects. We provide reporting around activity and storage. And I'm going to go into one of these. There's, you know, the demo of the actual product, I could sit here and prattle on for 3 hours with every function that it has. So what I'm just trying to do more is hit some of the higher level information and really get into the types of reports that we're generating. And, you know, just if you need more information, we can definitely provide more. So with any of the reports that we run in ControlPoint, we have these basic 4 sections with this. We choose a selection. So here I want to look at all of the sites' storage in the entire farm. And under parameters, I'm going to find my largest sites and my largest site collections. A couple of other things. If I want, I could actually set a limit in here and in advanced options. If I wanted to limit this to specific URLs so I'd omit my sites, but I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to hit run now. While that's running, one of the things when we're talking about governance, one of the big things is making sure that everyone is up to date on exactly what should be happening, as well as, you know, maintaining any security audits that they need to do, and just genuinely everyone being on the same page with SharePoint and receiving the same information that they need to action upon. So one of the big things that I like to talk about in this product is actually the scheduling capabilities. And I know that this is something, it's not really a huge feature what most people think, but when we're talking about distributing some of this information like permissions reports or audit reports, or even just self-site storage analysis, there are a lot of really very powerful tools within just the scheduling and distribution engine in the product that you can bring up the same information to any level in your organization. So with this, any of the jobs that we can run now, or we can run on a scheduled basis. The output types, there's 3 files. This isn't as exciting, but we can actually drop the item, the value of the report directly into a SharePoint list. This is just advantageous if you want to create your own dashboards using some of this report data, or you want to keep an eye on sites that are exceeding a specific site quota threshold that you may have specified in the product. Okay, we can set it on a recurring basis, or if we want it to run live. And then down here, we can add the report itself to a library list. So if you want to publish these security reports somewhere and have other teams audit it, we can easily automate the process of adding those that to those libraries. But one of the things I really want to hit on is send to admins, send to site collection administrators, and create reports by selection hierarchy. One of the trends that we see in the SharePoint space is really towards moving administration from the farm administrators and down into individual site and site collection level administrators. The real value to this is when you think about it from a governance standpoint, the people that should be making decisions on this content and who has access to this content and auditing who exactly sees this content, that should be the content owners that actually live with it and understand what's in there. And this is the ability for you to distribute any of the type of security reports that they may need down to that level. And what I mean by that is if I wanted to run a storage report and make sure that every site collection administrator and site administrator in the farm got it, I could run this single report at the top level, but I could select these 3 flags, and what it would do is automatically parse the report into the appropriate chunks and then send those chunks to the owners of each of the sites and site collections. So you can really just kind of force any of the interested parties to at least have the information in front of them. So while that was going, our report finished, so I'd like to hit on that for a bit. So this is one of our common storage reports. There's a couple of very, very interesting pieces of data here. And activity reports are very similar, so in terms of formatting, so that's why I'm just showing one and not the other. But with this, it's going to give me the name, the URL, who's the owner, as well as a little bit of information about the contents of the site. It's also going to give me the average uniques per day and whatever quota I may have had set on this site collection. For the actual sites, it's going to show me similar. The only real difference with this is its last accessed and last updated dates. This is just really valuable if you're ever trying to do a site retirement, making sure that the content in SharePoint is active and a business value of some kind. This is the way that you can easily just tell how often the site's being updated or accessed by users. A couple of things to note with this report. I can download the report if I want, from here so that I can email it to anybody else that I would choose. Also, you see these selects right here? This is what makes our reports to be able to be more actionable. So say that I'm looking at this report and these top 4 sites, I'm like, wow, those are so big. And I know they're not, but it's just a demo environment. So what I can do is I can actually select these 4 sites, 2, 3, and 4. And then it's going to bring up a selection builder. So now I can actually run any further operations that I want that are available in ControlPoint against these 4 sites. So if you're digging through to identify maybe a permissions abnormality or something else, this is the ability for you to run multiple reports and even action upon some of these reports to correct that. So if I look at these sites and then I want to come in here and I decide that I'm going to set a ControlPoint quota or ControlPoint policy, for site quota on these, just to make sure that they don't get larger. It's automatically going to pre-populate that selection, and I can come in here and I can select my site quota, and then I can set up the information for this. And this actually leads me into one of the next pieces of governance that I was going to talk about, policies. ControlPoint policies are very simply event handlers that we put into SharePoint that allow you to track and roll back certain events from occurring from your user base. And we have a large number of these. You can set them at any level where they make sense. What I mean for that is I can't at a list level control subsite creation because I can't create a subsite from a list. But other than that, they can be applied at any level in the scope. So a couple of the most common ones, say that you have a list or a library that may be the subject of some type of legal scrutiny and you can't delete documents from within that container. I could actually put a policy that would allow, that would prevent any users from deleting that list or even deleting the items within that list. Another couple of examples that I really like, control subsite creation and selected template. If you don't want people to keep throwing up publishing sites everywhere when they could be using team sites, or you want to force people into using your custom site template that you've deployed, I can come in here and I can restrict what sites they're able to actually create subsites. And I know that I can do this through the UI, but again, through the UI, I would have to do this at each and every site collection instead of being able to manage this centrally or update it centrally. One of my favorites, and the one that actually let us in here, control subsite quota. So one of the things we talk about a lot with governance and performance is maintaining acceptable scalability limits for within your environment. So the biggest common one that people hear is the size on site collections. So let's say, yeah, we're not going to have a site collection that's bigger. I'm going to set it lower than the maximum. So we're not going to have a site collection that's bigger than 100 gigabytes. So that's all fine and dandy, but there's no way within SharePoint natively for me to subdivide that 100 gigabytes into any other chunks. So for all I know, one of the sites in there is 99 gigabytes and all of the other ones combined are 1. So with that, using our ControlPoint policies, I can actually just register a quota for the individual subsites under any of those site collections or globally. A couple of things that are useful to mention in here. One of them, we have an inclusive or exclusive list of users that that will be bound by this policy. So if you decide, for example, that not a subsite quota, if we picked something else like, okay, control item or document deletion. What I could do is I could actually set this so that full control members of the site would be able to delete items, but no other users would. So it's just a way that you can really target the restrictions effectively so that you're really only keeping the people out that you should and not inhibiting people from being able to do their job by having too much tightly controlled security. The last thing that I'm going to mention with the policy, we actually have a message here that you can send a custom email to the person who actually violated the policy. I just like to talk about this because one of the things that we run into with governance is, especially if you're unveiling and restricting user access for the first time, which is what a lot of people are doing, what you'll run into is users that used to be free to do all of these things, when they're not able to, they think SharePoint is broken, or why won't SharePoint let me do that? This is just a way that you can, craft creative messages to them to just explain, oh yeah, you're not allowed to delete items in this library because of pending litigation or whatever. Contact Jim if you have any questions, or however you want to set that up, but just a way to proactively communicate to them what you're trying to do so that they don't just keep hitting the button and, oh, why won't this work, or just get frustrated with SharePoint. A couple of other major things in here. Auditing and alerts, and I would say by show of hands, but I guess that's not going to work because I can't see anybody. Auditing is probably my least favorite part of SharePoint, until ControlPoint came along at least. 3 real ways that we help with auditing, and these can fit a lot of scenarios. One, just like everything else, we have the ability to set the audit settings at a very high level. So again, instead of people turning it on and off every day, I could come in here, I could set this up so that this job runs once a day, and I can just basically make sure that nobody ever interferes with these settings, and every new site that's created is going to get the same settings, right? The second way that we help with this is actually through digging through the audit log. We have an audit log reporting tool. There's a couple of neat things that it does here. One of the major ones is, again, we allow you to search from a farm level down to an individual library level. We also let you filter out a lot more than you can through the standard reporting. So if I want to report on just one user, I can do that. Custom date range if you choose, and I can limit it by event type too. So if I'm trying to see what event occurred that exposed some documents in a library that should have been secure but they weren't, I could just come in here and say which exactly of these is related to permissions, and then it's only going to give me a list of the report or of the events that actually match what I'm looking for. So it's just really a way that we're going to let you, if not filter through that haystack faster, at least give you a magnet. And we can focus down on specific types of items as well. So if I know that this permission change event happened at a list level, so okay, it's just very easy to narrow down specifically on one event or one series of events instead of always having to start at a site collection and work your way down. Or even worse, if you're trying to track one user's activity across a broad range, a broad scope of the environment, having to go through and aggregate all of those reports just to find it out. This is just much easier. The last piece of auditing, there's no GUI function for it, and I know I'm a little big on auditing. It's just something that we continue to run across, and a lot of people just don't have their needs met by the out-of-the-box SharePoint auditing functionality. The last thing that we help with is audit log archiving. So one of the problems with auditing is if you have a large or a very highly active environment, the SharePoint audit records continue to be written to the content database. So these will just continue to cause the content database to bloat. What we allow you to do is you can actually offload those records from the content database and into a table that we create in SQL. So it'll allow you to maintain the audit records for longer than you would be able to by keeping them within the environment without seeing major performance issues. So that's the audit log archiving piece. Like I said, there's actually just a job that you set up on the back end, but there's no GUI component to having it run. Okay. One of the other things that I really want to hit on, and this is really one of the largest, is really around permissions management. And there's a bunch of different ways that we can help using ControlPoint. Some of it's the permissions reporting. These take about 1.5 minutes in the environment to run, so I actually pre-ran them for us. But some of the actions in here that are really big, duplicate user permissions. So this is a very simple function. All it does is at whatever scope you choose, it allows you to take one user ID and then map the permissions that exist for this one user to any other user that you choose. So if I'm leaving the organization, but someone's coming to replace me named blah, I'm sure I'll find a T. And Amira's coming to replace me, I can easily just map all of my security into Amira's account. So this is great because you can do it at a farm level. So if you want, you can do this as a part of an incoming and outgoing employee workflow. But it also alleviates the site admin's need to go through and exactly replicate the security by going to every object and finding out if the old person had access and then granting the same level of access to the new person. And it also eliminates the temptation to just say, you know what, Amira seems like a good person, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give her full control of the site because I don't feel like going through the entire tree to make sure that I'm giving her just those permissions. Permissions backups. This is very advantageous within the product if you have a lot of uniquely secured content. So the advantage to this is really that what you can do is we can just take a copy of only the permissions and not the content itself. So my favorite use case with this, if you have end users that administer permissions, having someone not understand what inheritance is and then simply restore inheritance to a list with a bunch of uniquely secured items in them. This is a way that you can just set up permissions backups to run, every couple days, every week, whatever time frame you want. And if you have some kind of massive permissions problem, instead of having to go through and restore all of the content or rebuild the security manually, you can just restore the security. Another neat thing with this is when you've got a permissions backup, we have what the permissions looked like at one snapshot in time. So we actually have a separate report. I should have just gone to this first. It's at a site level. We have a separate report here that what we can do is take from any permissions backup to the current time or to a different permissions backup and identify what permissions have changed in that span. So you can just spot changes over time. Okay, and in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the last couple of things around permissions. Orphan domain users. This is just a very valuable report, and what it does is it goes in and it identifies any users that their Active Directory account has either been disabled or deleted, and it returns you a list of all of these users. So if they've left the company, for example, this will give you the ability to remove them, their alerts, as well as any of their permissions from the SharePoint environment as a whole, and delete their MySite as well. And the last thing is, or the last thing around security is ControlPoint permissions reports. So let's load this. Yeah, this takes about 50 seconds, but I didn't want to sit through that with everybody watching. Okay, so for every permissions report that we were on, what I did here is I ran a permissions report on this site collection, the portal home one that we've been staring at. And let's collapse this real quick. And here it's going to give me a list of everyone who has access to this content and how they have access to this content. So what I mean by that, expand this out for a second. Every permissions report that we do, it's first going to show you anyone who has access through web application policy. Since if you have access through web application policy, you can definitely see the the content that we're trying to security audit. So it's always the first part. Hang on just a second. The page might have actually gone stale. Give it a second. Yeah, apologies. I think my session expired or something similar. Give me 1 second while this loads. I'll just run this report here. One of the last things that I wanted to show, so we've gone through most of the aspects of the tool in terms of just the broad areas in which we can help in governance, but we also have a couple of aspects of the product that are designed specifically around site and site collection level administrators. And there's two of them that I'm going to show you in here, Launch ControlPoint for site admins and ControlPoint permissions management. Both of these menus are launched from the SharePoint sites themselves, and what they're designed for is that so site administrators and site collection administrators can actually go in and use specific parts of the tool that you want to expose to them. So it'll give them the ability to report on their permissions, or even use that duplicate permissions function that we were talking about. Or in the separate UI, this is the Site Collection Administrators UI. This contains all of the same reports that are available in the main UI that I was talking about that are applicable to a site or site collection and lower. And you can edit any of these menus so that you can only turn loose some of this functionality to your end users. So you can be really creative in exactly what you want to give them access to and what you want to restrict from them. But still empower them to use a lot of the automation abilities and more of the enhanced reporting that's available in ControlPoint over the out-of-the-box SharePoint capabilities. And it'll just leverage them to be able to manage their environments more effectively. Let's go back here. Okay, comprehensive permissions. And I believe, I'm going to run this report in the background, but I believe, David, that we wanted to conclude now for the questions period?
That's correct. Has any questions come through the chat line?
So just to give everyone a chance to digest what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes or so. As I said, the chat window is available there on the right-hand side. Just punch in the questions. One has come through already asking, will the slides be made available? The slides will be available, as will a recording of the webinar, so you can pass the link to colleagues who wanted to attend but couldn't make it today, or anyone else in the organisation this may be relevant to. You can share that. We can also do on-site, demonstrations on site with you guys as well if you want to run through any particular aspect. We'll be in touch afterwards to follow up on that. In terms of some of the questions coming through, just around some of the licensing, how is the product licensed, and is there a different pricing model between on-premise and, say, 365?
Yeah, and yes, I guess with the product there is a number of different ways of licensing. For the ControlPoint areas, it's usually by per server. For a storage point, it would be for capacity, such as by per terabyte, for instance. So depending on what the particular problem you may have, it depends on how that will be licensed. We do offer a Office 365 licensing as well, which does subscribe to the per user model, so a monthly charge or a per user charge. Okay.
So for the ControlPoint product specifically, is it on a web front end basis, or you say is it per server?
No, it's actually it's based on the ControlPoint licensing is based on the farm. It's not individually by the individual front ends.
Okay. Another question coming through now asking which versions of SharePoint this is compatible with. Is it ready for 2013?
All versions of SharePoint.
Yep, I've actually been showing you on 2013.
A few other questions starting to come through now. One here asking, does it require any additional server infrastructure for this tool to run?
Matt, no, there's no additional server infrastructure required. It does install straight into SharePoint.
Yep, straight into the central admin there. Question here asking, in terms of the features, there's a lot. What would you be, say, one of the main features of functionality over and above what out-of-the-box SharePoint gives you in this area?
If I had to put it on just a few, the distributed admin piece is probably what I think to be the most powerful part of the tool, but that's only if that's the governance model that you're adopting. The auditing capabilities, the security reporting capabilities, I would definitely rank as the top two, because, and you know, I challenge you, if you're doing these reports manually now or through SharePoint out of the box, I'd really challenge you to try and find some of the data that would be available in one of our comprehensive user reports, because it's a pretty drastic drain on resources to do.
Yep, good stuff. Okay, just give us a few more moments for any other questions to come through. One just come through there asking who really owns the tool in the organization. Is it IT based or is it more business based?
I've actually seen it happen both ways. It depends on who's driving the actual implementation in the organization. In a large number of cases, it might be, and this is in the States, okay, so it might be slightly different. But here, a lot of times, it'll be the corporate communications department or potentially the legal or audit teams that need the tool for certain aspects. Traditionally, it's IT, though.
Yeah. I might just tackle into that question as well. In terms of some of the services that Antares Solutions can bring to the table, we do have a predefined governance model that we can take you through. It's really a short engagement, a couple of days, and it really concentrates on, I suppose, the technical governance aspect of being administrator of SharePoint and looking after the databases and permissions and security and things like that. And we also do operational governance to make sure there's enough power users inside the organization, the right training and skills and knowledge of the ControlPoint tools as well, to be able to handle things at a business level as well. So we can help facilitate a session or a couple of sessions around getting a governance plan in place and then using things like ControlPoint to underpin that governance plan as well. No more questions have come through at this stage, but just want to thank everyone again for attending the webinar. As I said, a recording will be made available, the slides will be made available, and the Antares team will be in contact with all the attendees to follow up and say we can provide a trial key, we can provide demonstrations, we can have conversation around your requirements, and we can provide consulting services around the side, not just around SharePoint, but around the wider business tools as well. Thanks, Matt and David, for joining us today on the call. Good demonstration, good overview of the product and the company. And as I say, we'll do these events on a semi-regular basis, so we'll make sure that we invite you all guys to the next one as well, and potentially we can focus on another one of the Metalogix products in their product suite. But thanks, everyone, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you for having us.